They killed the couple to rob them and take the money to Disney. On an apparently quiet afternoon in June in the Parque Avellaneda neighborhood in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the peace was abruptly interrupted. The police officers from Neighborhood 9C found a gate half open in an apparently normal house. What seemed to be a simple robbery soon turned into a nightmare when they discovered that the residents, a couple of retirees respected in the community, had been victims of an atrocious act. Alberto Antonio Chirico and Maria Delia Esperanza, names that would soon resonate in the headlines, now lay lifeless in their home. With the neighborhood in a complete state of shock and the police on high alert, the arrival of the couple's daughter, Florencia, triggered a series of events that would reveal the dark secret hidden behind the doors of the seemingly peaceful residents. Who could have perpetrated such a heinous crime in such a peaceful place? The answer, more terrifying than anyone could have imagined, shook the community to its core. Sonia Rebecca Zuluaga, the officer in charge of the patrol in the area, showed up at the precinct number 7 that same day to report the theft. According to her account, while patrolling the Flores neighborhood, she was rammed by a Renault Duster from the front, followed by a Volkswagen Gol that hit her from behind. 2 armed men got out of each car, and Sonia bravely tried to defend herself using her standard issue 0.35 inches pistol. Despite her efforts, none of her shots hit the criminals, who managed to snatch her weapon and take with them the sum of 300,000 pesos in cash. Then, as the investigators delved into the case of the alleged robbery reported by Sonia, significant discrepancies began to emerge in her testimony. However, what they did discover was a disturbing connection between Sonia and the crime scene at Lo Chirico's house. At the police station, everyone knew that the woman worked in the same unit where the tragic murder of the retired couple had taken place, which sparked unsettling rumors among the officers in charge of investigating the alleged robbery. The Criminal and Correctional Prosecutor's Office No. 1 threw itself fully into the task of connecting the threads between both cases. Although Sonia's weapon remained missing, the story of her 2 self-defense shots powerfully attracted attention, especially when coinciding with the number of shots that ended the lives of Alberto and Maria Delia. According to forensic examinations, the couple's murder had taken place between 12:30 in the afternoon and 4:30 in the evening. The security camera footage then revealed Sonia approaching the retiree's house and an hour and a half later leaving the place. These revelations made Sonia the main suspect in the crime. But let me tell you about Sonia's life. Sonia Rebecca Zuluaga saw the light of the world in the year 85 in Argentina. Being the daughter of Adolfo and Ofelia Zuluaga, raised in a large working-class family with 6 siblings, her childhood was marked by her father's daily struggle as a street vendor to support the family. Despite not having luxury, Sonia managed to reach adulthood without major complications. However, her plans to become a police officer were cut short when, at the early age of 19 years in 2004, she became pregnant. Despite this challenge, she gave birth to a girl who became the center of her world. Although she separated from her partner shortly after, the woman became the main economic support for her family while receiving some financial support from her daughter's father. Then, in the year 2011, she was finally able to realize her dream of joining the police despite her parents' concerns about the dangerous nature of the job. And so, over the years, the woman faced financial challenges, but in 2017, she managed a transfer to the autonomous city of Buenos Aires Police Department, which provided her with economic stability. In her new assignment at the neighborhood police station 9C, she not only improved her financial situation, but also found love in Diego Alberto Pachila, a colleague a year older than her. Meanwhile, her daughter was enjoying a peaceful childhood in Florencio Varela, attending high school and immersing herself in the early years of adolescence without major worries. In May 2019, Zuluaga was assigned to the Avellaneda Parks neighborhood, where she patrolled from dawn until the afternoon. During her service, she established close ties with the merchants and neighbors of the area. However, 2 retirees in particular, who were Alberto Antonio Chirino and Maria Delia Esperanza, who resided at 35 General Eugenio Garzon Street and had a special affection for her. The officer, on the other hand, spent long hours on guard in that area, and both elderly people considered her a comforting and trustworthy presence. And with this, let me now tell you about the victims. First, Maria Delia, born in 1956 in Rauch, a Buenos Aires suburb. She met Alberto, who had lived his entire life in Parque Avellaneda since his birth in 1948, when he later moved to the capital. Together, they raised two children, Florencia and Mariano, and their marriage of over 40 years was a cornerstone in the local community where they were very loved and respected. Delia was admired for her dedication as a teacher for visually impaired children, while Alberto had made a career in the pharmaceutical industry. On the other hand, the couple shared a passion for music, with Maria playing the piano and Alberto the guitar. They always had visitors at their home, whether they were grandchildren, friends, or acquaintances, and when they weren't at home, they could be seen strolling in the park or enjoying a tango dance at some local event. So Sonia established an instant connection with the couple, and soon they began to have daily conversations with her, creating a bond of trust, as I was telling you. Whenever they saw her working under the sun, they would offer her a glass of water or coffee, and even sometimes allowed her to use their bathroom. So this bond reached such a point that they decided to invite her to lunch, aware that she had little time to eat during her shifts. However, they were unaware of the tension and personal challenges that only Aga was facing at that time. Sonia's daughter was about to turn 15 years old, and instead of wanting a conventional party, she longed to take a trip to Disney in the United States. A trip, by the way, that was very expensive. To make this dream come true, the mother looked for companies specialized in trips for teenagers and found one called Fun Time. However, the reality was that Sonia didn't have enough money to afford this gift, which, as I said, was very expensive. Despite this, she managed to reach a payment agreement with the company, committing to work hard to cover the costs. So, month after month, Sonia pushed herself to the limit, working extra hours on duty at the clinic hospital to fulfill her daughter's dream. But when June arrived, the month before the trip, she still owed the agency $6,000. The pressure began to take its toll on her, not knowing how to get the necessary money. And just at that moment, something happened that at first glance seemed terrible. On the afternoon of June 11th, officers from the neighborhood police station 9C were patrolling the Avellaneda Park area. Around 3:55 p.m., they noticed something unusual. The gate of a house on General Eugenio Garzon Street at 3581 was wide open. They immediately suspected a possible burglary and hurried to investigate who the homeowners were. They discovered that it was Alberto Chirino and Maria Delia Esperanza, but when they tried to contact them by phone, they got no answers. The police deployment did not go unnoticed by the neighbors, and one of them in fact approached the officers to inform them that the couple's daughter lived just a block away. So, without wasting time, they contacted the woman, who quickly showed up to accompany them inside the house. Once they entered, they found a chaotic scene. The house was in complete disarray. With their hearts then racing, they quickly moved forward, fearing the worst. Their worst fears then became reality when they discovered the bodies of the couple lying lifeless on the floor. Both had fatal wounds to the back of the head caused by a firearm, as well as injuries to the face caused by a blunt object. Near the bodies, they also found a maroon cushion, probably used as a silencer to muffle the noise of the shots. And with this, the agents quickly came to the conclusion that it was a completely horrifying, terrifying crime. The front door showed no signs of having been forced, suggesting that the attacker was known to the victims. The disorder also in the house indicated that the killer had meticulously searched every place possibly in search of valuable objects. However, items such as cell phones, computers, and appliances were still in place, leading the police to conclude that the aggressor was specifically interested in cash. The Criminal and Correctional Prosecutor's Office, number 1 of the city, defined the case as a homicide in the occasion of robbery and requested the relief of the security cameras in the area to try to identify the aggressors, of whom they had no clue at the moment. The officers also immediately tried to contact Sonia as the crime had occurred during her shift, but they got no response. Once the prosecution managed to establish the connection and point her out as the main suspect, the officers went to her home with a search warrant. When they broke into her home, they discovered that she had over 70,000 pesos in cash, which raised suspicions considering she had claimed that all her savings had been stolen. In addition, they found traces of gunpowder on a police uniform. However, Sonia justified this as part of a shooting practice carried out the day before, although her weapon never appeared and it was established that the bullets used to murder Alberto and Maria matched those of her regulation weapon. Under pressure, Sonia decided to tell her version initially. She admitted to lying about the theft of her pistol, confessing that she had forgotten it along with her money in a bathroom at a service station. She also argued the risk of severe work sanctions, including up to 60 days of arrest and dismissal. However, her explanation did not convince, and two key witnesses worsened the situation or her specific situation even more. The first witness, Fabiana Veronica Constantino, a veterinarian near the couple's residence, recalled that Sonia had asked to use the bathroom in her place around 10:30 in the morning on June 11th. She then asked her to keep her official police phone, promising to pick it up later. However, at noon, she received a message from Sonia's personal cell phone asking her to give the phone to Graciela, an employee of a kiosk in front of the veterinary clinic. Although it didn't seem strange to her at the time, investigators interpreted this as an attempt to evade the geolocation of her police cell phone. On the other hand, Florencia Chirino testified that her mother had mentioned a blonde policewoman with whom she used to strike up conversations on some occasions. This woman had even gone so far as to enter the house to use the bathroom or have coffee with milk or the little glass of water that I was telling you about. And Florencia felt worried about this situation as she perceived that the woman was taking advantage of her parents' trust. She knew that she had even asked her strange questions about exchanging dollars. All of this made sense then after the Chiricos were robbed following the murder. And with this, the motive for the crime was clear. Sonia had to settle the debt of over $6,000 she had with the Funtime Company in order to finance her daughter's trip to Disney. After a month of intense investigation, Sonia was formally arrested and charged with theft and homicide or crime by cause, that is murder, to cover up another crime and achieve impunity. She was transferred to the Federal Penitentiary Complex No. 4 for women. However, she was not the only suspect. Diego, her partner, was also accused of complicity in the crime. Investigators believed he might have helped his partner dispose of the weapon or adjust her statement in the false report. He was also charged with doubly aggravated concealment. However, he would await trial in freedom due to lack of evidence against him. The trial against Sonia began on May 12, 2021 before the Oral Criminal Court No. 7. But due to the circumstance of this disease that we have been living for some years, it was carried out remotely through the Zoom platform. The former officer faced a series of serious charges, including aggravated robbery with a firearm, homicide, repeated twice with treachery, and false report. Due to a mistake of mine, the truth is that it was a mistake I took charge. I am going to take charge of making a mistake with the report. I am going to take responsibility for that. But unfortunately, for what happened to this person, I am not going to take responsibility ever because I have nothing to do with it. One thing has nothing to do with another. I am very sorry for what these people went through. But I also matter. I also have a family. I have parents. I have siblings, nephews, and especially my daughter. And for his part, this woman's lawyer requested her acquittal, arguing the lack of compelling evidence against her. And meanwhile, Diego, the partner, chose not to testify. His defense argued that he could not be charged with concealment for being the partner of the perpetrator of the crime. And then, as the days went by, Sonia's defense possibilities seemed to diminish more and more. Prosecutor Estela Andrades, in charge of the case, presented her theory during the virtual hearing. According to her account, Sonia would have taken advantage of her position as a beat cop to gain the trust of retirees Alberto and Maria and thus perpetrate the theft of their savings. The prosecutor also detailed how the woman had entered the home, torturing the victims, and finally would have taken their lives with point-blank shots using a pillow to silence the sound of the weapon. So, after a month of trial, she was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment for the crimes. Meanwhile, her partner Diego was acquitted due to lack of evidence against him. On the other hand, the victim's daughter, although she holds no grudge against Sonia, hopes that she serves her sentence behind bars. She regrets the absence of her parents on important occasions and also believes that the murderer showed coldness during the judicial process.